Statistically speaking, the international air transportation system is very safe. However, accidents are still occurring, and with projected growth in air traffic movements, by the year 2010, the system will experience at least one serious catastrophic accident a week.
Could it happen to you? Could you have made that particular slip? Could you have made that particular lapse under those conditions? And if you couldn't, then what makes you so special? And if you could, what can you do about it? These are the questions that we have to address.
Every day, the world airline industry transports very large amounts of error around the globe. That's because the passengers we carry are just like the rest of us. Error lives in us all. It's as much part of our humanity as humor, imagination, or memory. Who among us has never forgotten to post a letter? Or, if we thought we could get away with it, broken the speed limit to get to an important meeting on time. Been distracted when doing something important, or misunderstood what someone said. The question is, if we recognize our own humanity in everyday life, does the way we operate in the workplace also take account of these same human factors? Because of the risks inherent in our business, this is a critically important question for any of us with responsibilities for aircraft maintenance, whatever the job we do. The ruthlessness with which the job can seek out human failings is well known. In different parts of the world, there are different ways of calculating the scale of the problem. But whatever measure is used, maintenance-related errors emerge as a substantial cause of serious incidents and fatal accidents. It's easy to visualize major incidents which command international headlines, but what is easily forgotten is the huge annual bill for less dramatic maintenance failures, which result in delays and cancellations. Boeing calculate the figure as $10,000 per hour. Just 2 such events a week constitute an avoidable loss of more than $1 million a year. For most airlines, this figure is greatly exceeded.
The International Federation of Airworthiness is a non-profit, non-governmental organization dedicated to improving the safety of the international air transportation system. We have approximately 120 or more members coming from the airlines, from aircraft manufacturers, maintenance facilities, national aviation safety authorities, and a number of other organizations that have an interest in promoting aviation safety. Our member organizations come from the Asia-Pacific region, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Europe, and from North America. This gives us an international perspective on maintenance issues. Statistically speaking, the international air transportation system is very safe. However, accidents are still occurring, and the rate is not decreasing. With our current accident rates, and with projected growth in air traffic movements, by the year 2010, the system will experience at least one serious catastrophic accident a week. This is simply not acceptable to either the industry or the traveling public. The greatest opportunity to prevent this from happening is by reducing human error. Over the past years, considerable attention has been given to reducing human error in flight operation, but IFA believes that not enough attention has been given to reducing human error in aircraft maintenance.
People, us, humans, don't change, but the aircraft for which we are responsible have become vastly more complex in the span of a single working lifetime. On an entire aircraft, there may be as many as 6 million removable parts. So statistically, the chances of getting things wrong are high. It's the simple things that most often catch us out. Forgotten spacers, lock wires, and misassembled components. And an error can quickly become difficult to detect. Perhaps hidden away in units made up of thousands of removable parts. A detailed study of over 200 maintenance-related operational incidents showed that incorrect installation was a major factor in some 60% of these cases. There is a deep-seated issue at the center of the problem. Aircraft maintenance is a procedure-driven process, which above all demands consistent reliability every day. The difficulty is that humans are inherently inconsistent.
People's behavior is very variable, but an environment like this, where work has to be very consistent and very reliable, the organization has a problem. How does it limit people's behavior to that which is safe and effective? In aircraft maintenance, there has been a heavy reliance upon rules and procedures to keep people on the straight and narrow path. And where people deviate from this path, then they have often been punished or sanctioned, disciplined in some way. And that isn't always such a good idea, simply because people are not intending to make the slips and lapses and deviations always. And it's difficult to control people's actions, the actions that they can't actually control for themselves. So what I would argue for is a just society, a just culture, a just organization that is neither excessively punitive, as it was in the past, nor excessively liberal, as it might have been in the recent past with the so-called blame-free culture. We need to know very clearly where the line should be drawn between what is unacceptable, what is reckless, what is almost criminal, for example, from the actions which should not attract any kind of blame and for which people should not expect to be punished. And the crucial feature of this is that we will not get people to tell us, as they must, about their near misses and incidents unless they trust the system. People will always make errors. So every system needs to have defenses that will contain any ill effects of these unwanted actions. And an effective defense is one in layers. It has one layer after another. Now, in an ideal world, of course, all of those layers would be intact, but each one has got gaps, holes in it, and bad events happen very rarely, but they happen when these various holes line up to allow, if you like, the hazards to come in direct contact with the victims.
Defences are designed to eliminate maintenance errors. But take this example. A locking pin has been left in an emergency slide mechanism, a fault that will not be discovered until the next major scheduled maintenance, unless there is an emergency first. So how could such a breach of well-proven defences take place? There are maintenance manual procedures for every task, and detailed worksheets for every step. Training programs are in place. There are equipment standards with physical safeguards and reminders. And there is inspection at every critical stage. This failure occurred because, good though they are, the defences were designed to deal with procedures, not people and circumstances. Human inconsistencies and unforeseen circumstances create flaws in any system, and these failures can line up, allowing successive layers of defense to be swiftly penetrated. Here's what happened. The technician who was scheduled to change the emergency slide pack had arrived back from holiday that morning. So when he checked in, he still had other things on his mind.
Hi John, good holiday?
Yeah, great, thanks.
The day started normally. The task was routine, to fit an overhauled emergency escape slide to the number 1 right-hand door. Because it was a job he'd done often before, he didn't feel the need to refer to the manual before starting work. But a complication lay ahead. The high visibility warning flag was missing when the slide pack was delivered to the aircraft. This was noticed by the technician. It had happened before. Then there was an interruption, and before he had made a note of the fault, he was temporarily sent to another job, and the cover remained unfitted. To avoid delay, he asked a mechanic to put the cover in place. mechanic, less familiar with the task and with no knowledge of past instances of missing warning flags, assumed that since no flag was visible, the pin had been removed. The final defence was breached when the supervisor certified that the slide had been correctly fitted and the aircraft was released to service. If the possibility of human error is not fully taken into account, it is not a question of whether gaps in defences will allow failures to occur, they are a certainty. Even with the best of intentions, people will always defeat systems. So, though defences are essential, they alone cannot prevent things going wrong. Something more is needed.
We should just emphasize that the task of maintenance is extremely error provocative. If we take things off, it's easy. One thing follows from the next. But when we put things back on again, then there is a tremendous load on consciousness, on memory. It's very easy to forget things. It's very easy to put things on in the wrong order. So we have to recognize that no matter who does the job of installation or reassembly, it is very error provocative. When people try to manage the error problem, they try to manage the human condition. They try to get inside people's heads and, if you like, replace the missing piece. They try to make them less forgetful, to make them more attentive. But there's a limit to this, because these things that contribute to these slips and lapses are very wayward things. You can't predict them, you can't anticipate them. One of the things we all have to think about in relation to human error in maintenance is, could it happen to you? Could you have made that particular slip? Could you have made that particular lapse under those conditions? And if you couldn't, then what makes you so special? And if you could, what can you do about it? These are the questions that we have to address when we're looking at the issue of error management.
Every area of activity critical to a company's success is managed. Marketing, finance, and operations all are the subject of large inputs of resources and professionalism. Human factors, which are crucial to the safety and operational effectiveness of the organization, need a similar investment of effort, skill, and imagination. And across the industry, a number of important initiatives are already in place.
Blame plays a very large part in the way people respond to human error. It's emotionally satisfying, but it doesn't really lead to any effective remedy. And I think if we're trying to break free of what we might call the blame cycle, then we need to understand what fuels it and how it works. When people hear about a maintenance lapse, about a fastening not put back or an O-ring not replaced, then the assumption is that somebody has been careless, somebody has been stupid. And often they believe that this is a willful act, that they could have done something different. But to make errors, to make slips, to make lapses is a part of the human condition. One of the most important facts about error management, or most important principles about error management, is that it is sometimes the very best people who can make the worst mistakes. We're not talking about a few error-prone, clumsy people who are making most of the mistakes. It's something that can happen to everybody. The acts are unintended, so the punishment doesn't have an effect. But this makes the bosses, it makes management doubly cross now, because having warned people and having threatened them with punishments, the errors and the slips and the lapses are still happening. So it seems to them as if they are deliberately defying authority. And so they think they're being even worse than they were the first time. And the cycle goes round and round and round. What can we do to break the blame cycle? Well, first of all, we have to recognize that in most cases of unsafe acts, punishment is inappropriate and it's ineffective. And it does not change the behavior that it tries to change. We have to also recognize that people are not the agents of their own fate. They live in a world of constraints. And the constraints are the constraints of the workplace, the constraints of the tools, the procedures, and of the organization. So if we really want to change behavior and to break out of the blame cycle, we really need to address the situational factors, the circumstances in which people work, the conditions under which people work.
Human factors error management is not simply another way of enforcing rules, nor is it a replacement for existing safety management systems. Indeed, human factors error management can only function effectively with a disciplined safety management system at its foundation. In short, a sound safety management system is essential, but not enough. This is leading to a global tide of change.
We at SIA Engineering Company are at the leading edge of this global tide of change. Everyone is aware of and proud of our excellent safety record. And senior management is totally committed to providing tools which will enable all of us to find and remove causes of incidents before they cause harm.
Learning from experience alone is not sufficient. Data from past incidents and near misses is vital, but by definition, you need to have the incident before you can learn from it. What's needed is a continuous process which can help identify gaps in defences and remove them ahead of time.
We need to recognize that we have to put within our safety management systems a comprehensive package of error management. We have to recognize the factors which contribute to errors and then to deal with them in advance of the problem. And error management is not just a single thing. There's no one fix. There's no one magic bullet. We're going to have to address measures at the person. We're going to have to inform mechanics and engineers about human factors principles, about the ways in which the task can trick them into error. We're going to have to talk about the team, about how groups of people interrelate, about the communication problems. We're going to have to talk about the task. We have to look at the workplace, the tools, the paperwork, the computers, the backup. And we have to go and look at the whole system, at the organization, the organizational structure, and especially the safety culture. And we need a culture which is an informed culture. We need people to inform us about their slips and lapses, and we need, above all, a just culture where the issue of blame and punishment has been resolved in a fair way.
The changes which human factors error management make recognize that the same human qualities which allow us to compete and to excel can also trip us up.
We need to better understand the causes of human errors in maintenance and the methodologies and techniques available to us to avoid them. Human errors not only reduce aviation safety, but they greatly increase operational costs. Therefore, by reducing human error in maintenance, we not only increase safety, but we also increase profitability.